Animals come in all sorts of shapes, but if you're anything like me, you know that size is everything. But I'm not talking about famously big animals like elephants and blue whales, because there are so many comparatively huge animals of different species that most people don't even know exist. So let's take a look at some of the biggest animals of their kind. Largest mosquito. Let's start with one of the most hated animals alive, the mosquito. Usually these bloodsuckers will reach a maximum of about a half-inch long, but if you live in China, be prepared for much larger ones. This is thought to be the world's biggest mosquito. Discovered several years ago with a wingspan of 4.3 inches in Sichuan province, it was initially labeled as a crane fly. After extensive research, the insect was found to feed on larvae. Despite not being a bloodsucker, it still warranted its name, which in Chinese translated to big mosquito. This makes it 10 times bigger than the average mosquito, and somehow that's not even the worst part. More than 800 species of giant mosquito have been discovered in China, and 100 of them exist in the Sichuan province. Turns out hell on earth really does exist. Largest horse. Over the centuries, humans have bred horses for every task they can think of, from speed and stamina in riding to working the fields and pulling heavy carts. For the latter, you need a supreme amount of power, which is where the Shire horse comes in, the biggest breed of horse there is. The tallest and heaviest horse ever recorded was a Shire horse called Samson, thought to have been born around 1846. Horses are traditionally measured in hands, a unit taken from the hoof to the ridge between the horse's shoulder blades, and an average Shire horse is about 16 hands tall, which is about 5'3". Samson trotted in at a gigantic 21.2 hands, and that's 7 feet 2 inches tall. His peak weight was estimated to be around 3,360 pounds, but this was never confirmed. Following generations have competed for the title, but none so far have been able to reach it. Not even this absolute unit. His name is Brooklyn Supreme, a Belgian red roan stallion and draft horse who was recorded to have stood at 19.2 hands, which is about 6'6", and weighed in at around 3,200 pounds. But if you're looking for a modern-day behemoth, take a look at the tallest horse alive, simply known as Big Jake. He stands at a massive 20.2 hands, which puts him in at about 6'8", the same height as LeBron James. I'm not sure how good LeBron looks pulling a cart though. Largest living cat. Dog people, cover your ears and look away now. This is Hercules, the biggest cat currently walking the earth. You'd be mistaken for thinking this chonker was a lion, and those stripes might make you believe he's some kind of tiger. But in fact, he's both. Hercules is a liger, a hybrid breed from a male lion and a female tiger. According to National Geographic, ligers lack growth-inhibiting genes which don't put a cap or limit on their body growth usually inherited from a parent. From nose to tail, Hercules is 10 foot 9 inches long and weighs a colossal 922 pounds. To get to this weight, he eats approximately 30 pounds of meat a day, which is around the same weight as a 2-year-old child. So tell your kids to keep their hands away from the cage unless you want Hercules to become the new Harambe. Largest bull. When I ask you to think of the world's biggest bull, what do you imagine? Something like this terrifyingly stacked Belgian blue with a rare genetic mutation? This Jim Bro of the animal kingdom may look impressive, but he only weighs in at around 2,700 pounds. Even though it's clearly never skipped leg day, it's a little way off from the current title holder. Anyone scrolling through the news recently might think the title belongs to Knickers, the giant Australian Holstein steer who weighs about 3,086 pounds at a height of 6'4". Although he towers over a tiny field of beef to be, he also pales in comparison to the world's biggest bovine breed. That honor sits squarely with the Chianina, an Italian draft cattle breed thought to be one of the oldest and largest in the world. In 1955, a Chianina bull named Donetto stole the title for world's heaviest bull, reported somewhere between 3,840 pounds and 3,920 pounds. That's about the same weight as a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. That's a hell of a lot of bull. Largest rat. New York City is the home of some of the world's most famous rats, such as the immortal pizza rat, garbage rat, and this absolute monstrosity which might just be Master Splinter on his day off. Even at this size, New York rats cannot compare to those found in the depths of Papua New Guinea. From the country that has given you giant tarantulas and monster cockroaches, say hello to the 32-inch Bosavi woolly rat. An expedition into the jungle by a team back in 2009 discovered the furry nightmare that was similar in size to a small dog. It weighed approximately 3.3 pounds, and with almost no fear of humans, it could almost be considered cute. If only it wasn't the worst thing I'd ever seen. Largest rodent. But on the opposite end of the otherwise horrifying rodent spectrum is the largest rodent of them all, the weirdly adorable capybara. Native to South America, you can tell from appearance alone it's closely related to guinea pigs and a little more distantly related to chinchillas. Adult capybaras can grow up to 4'4" and weigh up to 146 kilograms, but are more typically the size of your average family dog. Females are ever so slightly heavier than males, with the top recorded weights coming in at 200 pounds for a female and 162 pounds for a male, both in Uruguay. To put that in perspective, a human American adult female weighs 170 pounds on average, and a male weighs approximately 197 pounds. I guess we're all just guinea pigs in the end. Largest jellyfish. It's not every day you encounter an animal without a brain, blood, or even a heart, let alone one that can weigh over 200 kilograms. This ethereal-looking killer is the lion's mane jellyfish and is the largest type of its kind. The biggest recorded specimen was found way back in 1865 off the coast of Massachusetts, measuring over 7 feet in diameter with tentacles stretching 112 feet long. It dwarfs an average-sized blue whale by 12 feet. These mindless blancmange ghosts can host up to 1,200 separate tentacles splayed out in every direction, and they prefer staying near the surface of their watery habitats, making them a literal pain in the ass. In New Hampshire 2010, the 40-pound corpse of a lion's mane jellyfish floating off the coast of Wallace Sand State Beach was reported to have stung and injured almost 150 beachgoers. That's alright, I never wanted to go near the ocean again anyway. Largest snail. Have you ever eaten snails? They're a mouthful of odd, rubbery goodness when seasoned right. Unless you're faced with this beast, which I imagine would make even the most French of Frenchmen choke. This is the African land snail, the largest known land gastropod, a subclass of gastropod which comprises snails and slugs that breathe air and live exclusively on dry land. The largest specimen ever recorded measured in at 15.5 inches from snout to tail, with a shell length of 10.75 inches. Able to extend almost as long as a human forearm, there isn't anything modest about this mollusk. Largest slug. And on the topic of massive mollusks, we have to address the giant slug in the room. This is the black sea hare, the largest slug in the entire world. These gastropods are able to grow up to 30 pounds on a diet of seaweed and kelp, but this isn't any ordinary giant slug. The structure of its body is comprised of a small internal shell and 2 large wing-like flaps, or parapodia, which can be used for swimming like you can see here. Able to grow up to 3 feet long, they have very few predators and are non-toxic, but apparently they are much slimier than they look. Hope you're not squeamish. Largest shark. When you hear the word shark, does the Jaws theme tune start playing in your head? The great white shark is an incredible fish, which is notable for its size and carnivorous appetite. The largest specimen known to be alive to date is a subject called Deep Blue, a 20-foot female thought to be at least 50 years old. In contrast, most female great whites only reach 16 feet in length, making her incredibly impressive. Except she's not the biggest fish or shark in the sea. On the other end of the natural-born killer spectrum is the whale shark. This is a slow-moving, filter-feeding carpet shark which grazes along the ocean on a diet of krill and copepods in a manner closer to a whale than a shark. Nevertheless, like all fish, it relies on gills rather than lungs to provide its blood with oxygen, technically putting it into the same category as the great white, except it's much, much larger. The average length of a whale shark reaches around 30 feet. But there are historical records from 1995 claiming the largest whale shark ever found measured an unbelievable 68 feet snout to tail. It was found off the coast of Ratnagiri in India, and although this isn't confirmed, that would make this particular shark more than 3 times the length of a great white. Step aside, Jaws. Largest frog. Would you ever keep a frog as a pet? How about one the size of a house cat? Yeah, I wish I was joking. But this is the Goliath frog, a 7-pound, 1-foot-long endangered species of frog native to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. Their incredible size and features have made them prized pets and even food to the humans who share their habitat. Their eyes can measure up to 1 inch wide, which is larger than the eyes of most healthy humans. Their size not only grants them a slightly extended lifespan of 15 years in the wild, but the developed muscles in their hind legs mean they can also leap almost 10 feet. Now those are legs that go all the way up. Largest crab. Humans are at the top of the food chain, no questions. But can you rip open a coconut with your bare hands? You may not be able to, but this alien-looking monster absolutely can. So much so they named it after its ability to split a coconut open with only its claws. The coconut crab. It's the largest land-dwelling invertebrate in the world, but despite this viral photo making it look like a living nightmare, the truth is, this is much smaller than the standard 36-gallon trash can. Coconut crabs have a leg span that has only been known to reach a maximum of around 3 foot with a weight of 10 pounds. So even though it looks like something out of a horror movie, you're probably safe. Probably. I say we nuke it just to be sure. But if you're looking for the king of crabs, that title falls to the monstrous Tasmanian king crab. And good God, can you see why? The males of this species wield one massively oversized claw which accounts for a lot of the crab's weight, making it resemble a teenage boy who's discovered the dirty side of the internet for the first time. Unlike a teenage boy though, these crabs are long-living and slow-growing and can reach upwards of 39 pounds. That's about the weight of one average human leg. And speaking of legs, this is the Japanese spider crab, or in Japanese, Takashigani, which translates literally to long-legged crab. Say it how you see it, I guess. This gangly sea creature has the largest leg span of any crab and can reach almost 18 feet from claw to claw. The body has been known to grow up to 16 inches in width, bringing the mass of this sea creature up to a whopping 42 pounds. Sweet Jesus, kill it with fire. And maybe a little butter. Well, that's a list of all my ex-wives. Which one blew your mind? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.